Hi there. So my speech today is going to be in reference to firearm safety and gun control. There's two things tying together, and I'm going to go ahead and explain what I mean by that. So as a U.S. citizen, you do have the right to the Second Amendment, which is a part of your Bill of Rights, which goes over the right to bear arms. Bear arms used to also mean the right to be able to protect yourself in case the government does not. It also means the right to be able to protect yourself with a firearm within your household, go shooting for the fun of it, go hunting to be able to provide your family with food, really any reason why you want to go ahead and purchase a firearm. So you have the right to do so. The other thing is that the procedure to be able to purchase a firearm is very vague and simple right now. You need a proof of identification, proof of funding, and you need to do a vague background check, which is just basically a criminal background check that goes over whether or not you've lost your right as a U.S. citizen to be able to purchase a firearm because of your criminal background. There's no indication at all that the U.S. government currently right now is doing that goes over the mental health of people that are buying a firearm. So per the NRA, there are 60 to 75% of U.S. shootings that are happening around the world are due to homicides and suicides. So let that sink in for a second. The reason why there are so many mass shootings is because of mental health concerns. So people that are being advised that they're mentally unstable because they have suicidal thoughts, they're depressed, they've gone through traumatic things in their lifetime, whatever it may be, are not stable enough to be able to purchase a firearm at that time being. That's not saying that for their whole remainder of their life that they won't be stable again, but during that time frame when they are diagnosed with depression, mental health concerns, or mental instability, buying a firearm is not a reason to protect yourself. And it's actually not safe for anybody else that's involved. Mass shootings are they're defined as any type of shooting that 1 to 4 people are seriously injured or have lost their life. A lot of mass shootings that you're seeing in the news today are happening in local places, public places with a lot of people in them, and then usually at the end of it, the person that had committed the crime ends up committing suicide at the end of it. So those are happening in schools, churches, concerts, malls, really anywhere where there's a mass amount of people. So that's the first problem. Making sure that procedures for someone to buy and purchase a firearm goes through more invasive procedure steps and ensuring that their mental health is safe for them to be owning a firearm and for other people around them to be around somebody that is concealing and carrying a firearm. That's the first procedure that I like to go ahead and change. The second section of what I like to go ahead and change is the safety precautions that people are not knowledgeable about after purchasing a firearm. So right now there are no current steps that the NRA or the government requires a U.S. citizen when they're purchasing a firearm to go through after they had bought the firearm. There's no requirement for someone that has to go through a safety class or to prove that they've ever owned a firearm before in their life and they know how to properly use one and maintain its safety for themselves and other people around them. So for me, I grew up in a family household where my family went hunting. I knew how to properly dismantle and use a firearm by the age of 15. I've always owned a firearm. So I know I'm knowledgeable on how to properly dismantle a firearm, and I feel confident in that. Other people are not that way. There are some people that I know that have purchased a firearm without ever using one before, and they didn't have to go through any steps or procedures to ensure to the people that when the facility that they were buying the firearm from, that they knew how to properly use it. So for today's speech, I'm going to go ahead and show you my firearm. I did this a few videos back. This is my handgun. It's a pistol, so it's very small. The first procedures of when you buy a firearm, the safety 101, never ever put your finger on the trigger. So unless you're ready to shoot and aim and actually fire the firearm, you always keep your finger here. So this is called a safety pin. This is where people will advise for you to always keep your finger. Never point your gun, your firearm, at another person. You always want to point it down. That's the second thing. How to properly unload and check if your gun is loaded is the third thing. So right here, this is the clip. So if you pull this back, you can check to see if there's any bullets currently in the firearm. This is also the clip. So this goes here. You'll hear it click, so that means that the firearm is now loaded. To get it unloaded, there is a pin right here that you push, and now the clip just dismantled. So this is how to properly know whether or not a firearm is currently loaded or not loaded. It's really alarming to me that most people don't even know how to properly shoot. There is a looking glass pin right here that you go ahead and you look through when you're firing the firearm. There's also a white dot here that's called a seeker, so you can see whether or not you're aiming in the right direction. Most people have a misunderstanding that when you are firing a firearm, that you're just pointing, and that's where the ammunition goes, and that's not true. So those are just the basic things that I learned right when I bought a firearm when I was at the age of 18, that most people aren't aware of. There are so many classes around the U.S. and facilities that will be able to provide that knowledge to people, but it needs to be something that is a requirement. So again, those are the two things that I like to go ahead and make the changes to. Is the current procedures need to be more evasive. They need to ask more questions, ensure the safety for all you as citizens, not only the person purchasing the firearm. The second thing is making sure that people know how to properly use a firearm, dismantle a firearm, and store a firearm.